As I mentioned before, OPNsense needs to be installed on a dedicated machine. In this lesson, I'll explain all the hardware requirements for building your own OPNsense computer. But first, I want to show you our end goal. This is what your network is going to look like after completing this course. You'll either need to purchase or build a computer and install OPNsense on it. Then you will connect it to your ISP's gateway and a test PC. The ISP gateway will provide internet access, and this will be shared with the test PC. The test PC's role is to verify that everything is working properly. The connection between your OPNsense machine and the ISP gateway is referred to as the WAN connection, or Wide Area Network. The connection between your OPNsense machine and the test PC is referred to as the LAN connection, or Local Area Network. You may notice that the LAN side only supports a single computer. But don't worry, once you get everything working, you can easily expand it. You just need to replace your test PC with a network switch and/or wireless access point, and then connect all of your devices to that. Remember, our main strategy is to keep things as simple as possible. By using the minimum amount of devices, we reduce potential points of failure. This should make any issues easier to identify and fix. As I said, once this basic setup is functional, you can add additional devices. Now that you understand the goal, let's talk about how to achieve it. I'm going to assume that you already have a working ISP gateway and a test PC. The gateway is provided by your internet service provider. This is the device that you use to connect to the internet. Your ISP may call it something different, but in this course, I'm going to refer to it as the ISP gateway. Now, it's possible that your ISP gave you a modem instead of a gateway. With a gateway, you just connect devices and you get an internet connection. A modem requires extra steps, like installing software and entering a username and password. If you have a modem, you can still use OPNsense, but it's going to require some additional configuration that I can't provide. You may need to contact your ISP for specific instructions. The test PC can be any kind of computer. It just needs to have a web browser and a physical Ethernet port. Now, if you want to use a PC that doesn't have a network port, then I would recommend purchasing a USB to Ethernet adapter. You can find these on Amazon for pretty cheap. Also, you should try plugging your test PC into your ISP gateway to ensure that both devices are working properly. Once you've verified all this, then you can proceed. So next, let's look at the specific hardware requirements for an OPNsense machine. Since OPNsense is a customized version of FreeBSD, all hardware must be FreeBSD compatible. If a driver isn't available, that component won't work. This is the primary reason we won't be dealing with Wi-Fi, as FreeBSD has limited support for wireless cards, especially modern ones. CPU. You'll need a 64-bit x86 CPU, either AMD or Intel. OPNsense does not work on other architectures, like the Apple M series or the Raspberry Pi. Your CPU also needs to be 1 GHz or faster, and have at least 2 cores. Remember, this is just the bare minimum. Depending on your internet speed, the number of devices you have, the type and number of services you plan to run, you might need a more powerful multi-core CPU. RAM. A minimum of 2 GB is required, but more is highly recommended. I'd suggest at least 4 for basic setups, and 8 or more if you plan on using some of the more advanced features. Storage. You'll need at least 8 GB for a full installation. Keep in mind that logging, enabling certain features, and downloading plugins will require more. In OPNsense, storage speed is often more critical than capacity. So I strongly recommend using an SSD, or solid-state drive. SSDs with 32, 64, or 120 gigabytes are affordable and sufficient for most users. While you can use an SD card or USB thumb drive for storage, most are too slow and too unreliable for long-term use. Network card. This is the most important component of your OPNsense machine. First, you'll need at least 2 network ports. That means you either need one dual-port card or you need 2 single-port cards. One port is going to connect to your ISP gateway. This is the WAN connection. And the other will connect to your test PC. That's the LAN connection. While 2 ports are the absolute minimum, I highly recommend having at least 4 for greater flexibility. Extra ports can be used for additional internet connections, dedicated private networks, guest networks, or a DMZ. Second, all network cards should have Intel chipsets to ensure maximum compatibility and performance. I strongly suggest avoiding Realtek NICs. While you can use them, they tend to have more issues and be less reliable. Intel cards provide higher speeds, and they consume fewer CPU cycles. If you absolutely must use a Realtek card, be aware that you may need to install an updated driver. Third, make sure that all network cards support your desired speeds. For example, do not use a 100 megabit card if you have a 1 gigabit internet connection. You're also going to need at least 2 Ethernet cables to connect your OPNsense machine to the ISP gateway and the test PC. You'll need a keyboard, monitor, and USB flash drive for the initial installation and setup process. The flash drive is going to be used to install OPNsense, so it needs to be 8 gigabytes or more. Your OPNsense machine must also be able to boot from a USB port. So, these are the minimum requirements, and these are my personal recommendations. Now that you understand the basic hardware requirements, let's talk about how to acquire them. The way I see it, there are 4 main options. 1, you can buy an official pre-built computer. 2, you can buy an unofficial pre-built computer. 3, you can repurpose an old computer. Or 4, you can build a custom computer from parts. Let's go through each option in detail. Your first option is to purchase a pre-built computer directly from the OPNsense website. These machines are purpose-built with FreeBSD-compatible hardware and come with OPNsense pre-installed. Everything is guaranteed to work right out of the box. To purchase one, open a browser and navigate to shop.opnsense.com. You'll find a range of models to choose from compact fanless appliances to rack-mounted units. The product pages provide warranty information, technical specifications, and performance metrics. Official machines offer the smoothest and easiest experience. And most models include a subscription to OPNsense Business Edition, granting additional features and enhanced support. Additionally, these devices are typically smaller, quieter, and more power efficient than other solutions. The primary downside is cost. The premium features and guaranteed experience come with a significant price tag, making this one of the most expensive options. So, in summary, an official pre-built computer is perfect for those with a large budget but limited time. Your second option is to purchase a pre-built computer from a third-party vendor. Several companies design computers specifically for OPNsense and similar distributions. You can find these at various online stores, For example, you can search for OPNsense PC or Mini PC Firewall on Amazon, AliExpress, or other electronics retailers. Unofficial OPNsense computers have many of the same advantages as the official hardware, but they cost significantly less. You don't need to worry about assembly or compatibility issues, and the machines are often small, quiet, and power efficient. Unofficial OPNsense computers do have their downsides, though. OPNsense will not be pre-installed, so you'll have to do that yourself. The level of support can vary widely depending on the vendor and the specific product. The manufacturer may assist with hardware issues, but typically not software. You also will not receive a business edition subscription. Compatibility is also not guaranteed. Just because a seller claims a machine works with OPNsense doesn't mean that it's perfectly optimized or free of quirks. You need to be prepared to manually review the specifications, read user reviews, and check online forums for community feedback. If you're looking for guaranteed compatibility, purchase an official unit instead. Now, some of these machines might be bare-bone units, meaning they're missing components like the CPU, RAM, and/or internal drive. This is fine for people that want to customize their machine, but it will require additional costs and extra work. Always make sure you understand exactly what you are buying and which components are supported in case you need to add some. In summary, unofficial pre-built machines generally represent the most balanced solution, a compromise between cost and effort. Your primary challenge lies in vendor selection. You need to make sure that you're purchasing a well-built machine from a trustworthy manufacturer. The third option involves using an old computer that you might already own, or you can acquire cheaply, avoiding the need to build one from scratch. You can check your attic, basement, closet, or garage. If you don't have a spare, look for used computers on local classifieds, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, garage sales, swap meets, pawn shops, or thrift stores. The main advantage of this option is its low cost. It might even be free. Unfortunately, repurposed machines often don't meet all of the hardware requirements. You might need to add, replace, or upgrade certain components, like an Intel network card. Older computers also tend to be larger, louder, and more power-hungry than purpose-built hardware, and they generally have shorter lifespans. In summary, repurposing an old machine is a safe and low-commitment way to get started with OPNsense. If you have limited time and money, it gives you an easy path to take OPNsense for a test drive. It's also an excellent way to breathe new life into old hardware. For example, I managed to acquire an HP T620 Plus thin client a few years back. It has limited processing power, but solid networking capabilities, making it ideal for running OPNsense in small environments. The last option is to build a computer from individual parts. You can use new parts, used parts, or a combination of the two. Components can be purchased from various online retailers like Amazon or Newegg, or at a local computer store. The primary advantage of building a custom computer is that you can get exactly what you want without any compromises, optimizing for specific performance or features. Custom-built computers typically offer the most options for expansion, and they're often easier to work on and maintain. The main trade-off is that building a custom computer is more challenging, requiring a higher level of skill and technical expertise. Additionally, custom-built computers tend to be larger, noisier, and less power efficient than the compact, purpose-built OPNsense appliances. Building a custom computer for OPNsense is best suited for individuals with very specific hardware needs, like outgrowing an existing solution. But it can also appeal to those who simply enjoy the challenge of a do-it-yourself project. So your next steps will depend on the hardware option that you choose. While I can't provide specific instructions for every single scenario, here is a general guide. If you purchase an official OPNsense computer, then the operating system will come pre-installed. So you can skip the required software and installation and setup lessons in this course. Instead, just unbox your machine and set it up following the provided Quick Start guide. Then power on your ISP gateway device and connect it to the WAN port using a network cable. Power on your test PC and connect that to one of the LAN ports. Finally, power on your OPNsense machine, and once it's fully booted, you can then skip ahead to the lesson, Access the Web GUI. If you purchased an unofficial pre-built computer, go ahead and install any necessary components. You may also want to consider temporarily installing either Windows or Linux to verify that the machine boots and all hardware functions as expected. Then proceed on to the next lesson, Required Software. If you choose to repurpose an existing computer, go ahead and install or replace any necessary components to meet the OPNsense requirements. Once that's complete, I recommend temporarily installing either Windows or Linux to verify that the machine boots and all hardware functions as expected, especially the network card. This isn't strictly necessary, but it can make troubleshooting hardware issues much easier later. Once finished, you can proceed on to the next lesson, Required Software. If you're building a computer from parts, go ahead and assemble everything. Then I recommend temporarily installing Windows or Linux to verify that it boots and all hardware is working correctly. Once finished, please proceed on to the next lesson, Required Software.